Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be talking about direct lake in Fabric, as it were. So this is going to be a big video. I don't know how long this video is going to last. I just record. I fire up the recorder and I record this stuff, but I got a ton of ground to cover in this video. I actually have notes for once on my other screen, which I almost never do because there's just so much to unpack around this direct query stuff or direct lake. Sorry, not direct query, direct lake, direct lake, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. I'll get my stuff together here eventually. So to start off with, I've been doing a ton of reading around Fabric, right? And I've had my views on it. And so there's this page, learn about Microsoft Fabric from MVPs. Now, as a former MVP, I probably have a bit of a different perspective on this. And that's not, like as a former MVP, I have a different, unique view. No, it's not that, right? It's just I'll give you an example. So, as a layperson coming in and taking a look at this page, right? You're probably looking through this page and be like, "Holy smokes! This Fabric thing must be huge. Look at all the buzz going on in the MVP community about this." Okay, so as a former MVP, I look at this and like, this is fake. All right, this is all manufactured. This isn't organic buzz. That's truly organic and grassroots, right? This is manufactured, and I have no way to prove this because I'm not an MVP any longer. But I can tell you, my experience in my 7 years of being an MVP, why I'm 5 nines of certainty that this is fake. This is fake buzz. And the reason is anytime that Microsoft had like a major announcement or anything like that, right? They would send up what I called the bat signal, right? The distress call. It basically was a call out to MVPs, like please, please provide us content and hype this thing up because it's really important to us. Please, please, please. And so you get one of these. I got a number of these over the years as an MVP, and basically that's what it is. It's a distress call for providing content and hype and marketing, right? So, which is that's your true purpose as an MVP. Um, and so anyway, so this is why this exists, right? They sent out a distress call, and these are the people that responded, right? So that's the first thing. This is fake, fake buzz. So second thing, if as I look through this list, right, I'm looking through this list, and there's some conspicuously absent names on this list that I would expect to appear if this was actually something noteworthy and impactful. There's a few people, like I have a short list of MVP people in the data platform that I follow, and they're almost all not here. Some of them, a few of them are, but the vast majority of them are not. So that's the second thing I noticed when I was going through this, right? Now, now to explain some of that, right? I'll at least give you my perspective when I was an MVP and I'd get these bat signals, right? And as it probably comes as a huge surprise to everyone, in my 7 years as an MVP, I was not exactly your model MVP. I I know, shocking, shocking, Greg. Right. So they would send up these bat signals and these distress calls, and I would ignore them. Because my attitude towards it was I don't like being told what to do. And basically my attitude was, look, if this is something noteworthy and impactful, I'm gonna write a blog article on it or do a video about it or something like that. Right. And if it's not, then I'm not, you know. But if you're gonna tell me that I have to do something or supposed to do something or whatever it is, then I'm even if I do find it noteworthy and impactful, then I'm not gonna do it, right? Because I'm a broken human being, and that's just the way I think and my attitude, right? I don't want people telling me what to do or what I'm supposed to do. I always took offense to those emails, like deep, passionate offense to those emails, because to me it was just, okay, I understand that I'm just a marketing shill for you, Microsoft, and that's my true purpose in life, but you don't need to rub my nose in it. All right. So anyway, um, third thing, I've read through a lot of these articles, and you'll notice that they're almost all very high level things about Fabric, like what is Fabric, and maybe they'll throw in a why Fabric is a game changer and stuff like that. But it's all very, very high level stuff, and it's all I've read through a lot of it, and it's all very kind of wishy-washy. There's not a lot of detail. There's very little meat on the bone. It's almost all superficial. There's a lot of qualifying statements, and a lot of statements without any supporting evidence whatsoever. It's almost like the MVPs didn't get a lot of heads up on this one. Maybe they found out about it 2 weeks beforehand at the MVP summit, but it's possible that they found out about it the same time everybody else did. Which I think that's a common misperception with MVPs is that, I think there's a misperception that, we get all this inside access knowledge and all this other stuff. You really just get spoon-fed what Microsoft wants us to know about. Now, it's true, like, I was part of the Trident private preview for this that had gone on for like at least 6 months, if not longer, before this whole Fabric announcement. And that's basically what Fabric is Trident. But a lot of times, you're finding out things a day before anyone else finds out about them, or hours we're talking about. So it doesn't seem like there was a ton of heads up because, again, just the superficiality of a lot of these articles. And I mean, just, so Paul Turley, Paul's a good guy, straight shooter. How does Microsoft Fabric change the enterprise BI game? That's the title of the blog article. And, he has this thing in here. Satya said that Fabric is the most significant data platform innovation since SQL Server. Wow, what a whopper. But then there's no evidence to support it. Like, to support that statement. Why is it that big of an innovation? There's just, again, it's just very superficial information about Fabric. Hey, that's what Satya said. There's no evidence to support it, but there we have it, and it doesn't really explain why does it change the enterprise BI game. I don't get that from this article. But to Paul's credit, Paul's a straight shooter. Is Fabric ready for attack? No. That's classic blunt Paul for you right there. So no, it's not. It's barely, I love it. It's barely in public preview. So yeah, all right. So Reza, let's see. Isn't it just an umbrella for existing products? Ding, 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 ding. What's the big deal then? I hear you might say all these products and services already exist, except one. What's the big deal? And then he goes on again. It doesn't really tell why it's a big deal. It just explains that, well, Power BI would, started the same way. So it potentially has the potential to be something potential maybe. All right, so this one is super high level. I didn't get a ton out of reading this one. Again, just no detail, no meat on the bone. Data Mozart. I love Data Mozart. So goes in, and again, straight shooter. It's like, at this moment, it is important to understand that Microsoft Fabric is not some new fancy tool or product. Ding, 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 ding. It's a suite of individual analytic tools and services that work in synergy to provide a unified analytics experience. Correct, right? Same stuff I've been saying. Overcoming fear, exploring Microsoft Fabric from a Power BI angle. Again, super high level stuff. Is it scary? All of that sort of stuff. And then comes down to conclude, is there really nothing new? Well, of course, there are many new things. Doesn't say what they are, but so these are the kind of qualifying stuff. It's, again, as an MVP, it's like you have this overwhelming pressure on you to like obey and comply and hype things, and so you do that stuff and you say, oh, this is great, but you don't provide any evidence why it's great. But you say, as long as you say it's great, then it's gonna be great. All right, so back to this. All right, so in the plethora of all these articles are the same, pretty much, about like what is Fabric, and it's very high level. You read one, you've pretty much read them all. Except the one thing that did pique my interest, and Gilbert, good job, Gilbert, Formu, and also Greg Galloway, right? My favorite new feature, Direct Link, which is we finally gotten to the subject of this video. All right, so Direct Link, this is one thing that piqued my interest, right? When the Fabric announcement came out, this is the one thing I'm like, that's actually kind of intriguing. That's something I want to definitely take a closer look at. All right, so one last comment. There's apparently no agreement that I can find on, is it Direct Lake or is it Direct Lake? In the official Microsoft documentation, sort of, at least some places, it's Direct Lake with a space, although one lake is one lake, no space. It's like there's no consistency in the marketing here. I don't know, man. If you can't get the little details right, you know, I have a hard time believing you got the big details right. Anyway, so but this does look something interesting, like something, and let's see, Greg, you know, it provides a pretty high level overview of this. At least, yeah, and it was apparently his idea. Now, Formu, this is my kind of blog article. Gilbert did a good job on this. So it actually provides an overview of this, and then he actually goes in and tells you how to do it step by step. Now, a few of the steps have already changed, at least slightly. But this is my kind of technical blog articles, and we're going to be doing this later in this video. Hopefully, so that's the so what is the let's take a look at direct link and let's get into this. Okay, so the good part about direct link, right? It looks like something new and interesting, right? That's the good, right? But in this is the classic image that Microsoft has put out there as the marketing slick in order to explain what direct link is. All right, so first thing, there's a lot to unpack about this image. First off, what the hell is this? What is this Nuraku kind of looking white blob kind of thing sitting over here? I mean, and then if anybody gets that reference, I'd be surprised. But like, this is god awful, right? I mean, this is Satya said this is the biggest announcement in data platform since SQL Server, and this is the best graphic you can come up with, graphic designers. Like, does Microsoft not, like, do they have unpaid interns for their graphic designers? For the love of God, I mean, what Power BI desktop doesn't even have a dark mode. I mean, there's just so much wrong with this. It doesn't fit with the rest of the graphics. It's just an anomaly, like that's sitting. I don't know. You guys all saw the thumbnail, so for this video, so I mean, it's not like I have any room to talk as a graphic designer, but wow, this is terrible. Anyway, so okay. Anyway, I just had to get that off my chest, man. This has been bugging me the entire time since Fabric got announced. It's just like, my God, what is going on? Okay, so it's god awful. All right, so you have, up until now, you've had direct query or live, right? That is, basically the data sits in place and, use direct query to query it in real time, but it's slow. You have import mode where you have to duplicate the data, and you have import, but you have to, they say it's latent, you have to have a refresh, right? And the refresh cycle goes on to update it, et cetera, et cetera. And so this new mode is this, where basically it's like a direct query, but it's supposed to be fast. But it's not direct query because if you read through the documentation on direct link, it falls back to direct query. If there's too many rows returned, then it will fall back and then pick up the rest of it via direct query, is how it's supposed to work. So it's supposed to be direct query, live querying, but at the speed of import, right? That's the concept here, which is kind of cool. If you think about it, that does sound relatively intriguing, although there's some holes in all of this, right? So they're like, oh, you get rid of the refresh, right? With direct link, there's no need to refresh, like import. Well, I mean, sort of, except you're kind of forgetting the fact that this is Azure Synapse, right? This is all assumes that I'm connecting to Azure Synapse with all three of the people that use Azure Synapse today. But that's not where the source data is, right? You still have source data that hangs off here that you have to refresh to get into Synapse, right? So I mean, this import mode and direct query mode, this assumes that Synapse is your data source, but that's typically not the case, right? Your typical data source is this is going to be querying a SQL server or importing from SQL server and that sort of thing, like an on-premises SQL server, so are you really getting rid of the refresh and the latency? Because you still have to, if you were going and importing from a SQL server, now to use Direct Lake, you have to hang a SQL server off here, refresh it into Synapse, and then it's available. So have you really gained anything? I don't know. So I think there's some kind of misleading things about this image. And then the other thing to think about this is like, okay, it's Parquet files, the Delta tables. It's like, that sounds like a Databricks Delta Lake clone. I mean, literally the same thing. And that's been around for years, right? it's been around for years. So it's like, God, how late to the game are you, Microsoft, in this? Right? I mean, I guess that's where my head goes. So, are you really catching up at all? Because, it's been several years that Delta Lakes existed in Databricks. And this is that leads into a whole other discussion in terms of Microsoft. It seems like they've tried to boil the ocean and own, very broad focus on data management and that governance and data warehousing and lake housing, you name it, blah blah blah. They're trying to do everything. They're trying to boil the ocean, whereas their competitors are just eating their lunch, because they're focusing on like one thing and do one thing well, and that's why Synapse, I think, has not had the success that Microsoft would probably want it to have. Okay, so next thing about this. So this isn't direct query. This isn't direct query. It's not live. So what exactly is it? Right? It's not import. It's almost like I don't know, what you call this, remote, right? It's like it's a data set sitting over here. This data set, I don't know, doesn't really exist, or does it? And it's like, okay, how does this actually work? It's something new, I think. Do we call it remote? Like, and then, but what's the mechanism, right? And it's like, I don't know. It's like a Rick and Morty quote comes to mind, right? It's like a data set with extra steps. It's like, okay, we create our data set over here. And then we can query it from Power BI in theory. So but there's other things that do this more or less, right? Like at scale comes to mind. Like at scale, you can sit at scale in front of either Snowflake or Databricks or Azure Synapse, and you can connect Power BI to it, and it speeds everything up, and it's all live querying and all that in direct query or live querying. It's all very, very fast. It's like direct query on steroids. So I mean, there's technologies out there today already that do this, or at least some version of this. Anyway, so there's that as well. But it is going to be interesting to unpack like the technology behind this, and then is this only available in a Fabric license SKU? Is this only work there, or can I use an existing Azure Synapse workspace, right, and create these Parquet files and the Delta tables and everything, and then connect Power BI to that existing non-bundled Azure workspace, right? And if I can, then what's Fabric got to do with it, right? I mean, wait a minute, that sounds like a Tina Turner song. Like, what's Fabric got to do with it? What's Fabric but a second-hand license bundle? What's Fabric got to do with it? Who needs a one lake when a one lake is in preview? I instantly regret that. I instantly regret that. I don't edit these videos. That's going to be on there for all time. Wow, the ADD is kicking in. All right, so second, all right, another thing that comes up about this. So like, what is the use case? What is the use case for this, right? Because use import, right, up until, but get to certain data set sizes, and then you run into refresh issues. But we have incremental refresh to solve those kinds of problems, right? So, okay. So then we have direct query if we want, huge data models that I guess you can't refresh potentially or whatever, or just too big to fit in the memory and that sort of stuff. Then we can use direct query. And there's a lot of complexity and, to make this run well. Or you can just throw something like at scale in front of it and solve the problem. But okay, so there's that use case, right? But it's slow. Okay, but now I have to, I can leave my source systems in place because it's probably not Azure Synapse today. It's some other source system, right? But now I have to, like, I don't get the use case for this. It's not for small data sets because why would I bother throwing 1,000 row data set into Synapse, right? So it's got to be for much larger things. But now instead of leaving the data sit in place, now I have to get it into this Synapse work lakehouse or work or warehouse or whatever it is. So I just and here's the other thing. So this one on Microsoft Fabric Decision Guide, Data Warehouse or Lakehouse. So they break this down by like, okay, you got the Synapse Data Warehouse and the Synapse Lakehouse. And those are for like your professional data warehouse developers, SQL engineers, data scientists, right? and versus Power BI Data Mart is for like your citizen developer. And so they've already got this laid out here in terms of decision guide. So this isn't for your citizen developer, right? At least the way Microsoft's laying it out. You aren't going to have a citizen developer going in and creating a lakehouse and creating these Parquet files and Delta tables, or are you? Right? I mean, again, they say no, that's not who it's for, but then this is kind of saying it is. Well, all right. So use case, like in persona, who's this for? And who is this, and in what use case would you use this specifically? I think it's a very limited, very small set of use cases in which you need this functionality. And again, it all hinges on the fact that you have to use Azure Synapse for this, which, I mean, I'm not a big, huge, like, oh, vendor lock-in is the worst thing ever. No, but I mean, oh, you're vendor locked in at this point. If you're using this, right? You have to run on Azure Synapse. You have to pretty much use Power BI. This fully locks you into the Microsoft platform, 100%, for the entire foreseeable future. Which I mean, if that's their goal, that's their goal. I mean, I'm sure it's every vendor's goal. But yeah, I mean, but you know, is that a good thing? And again, if this is for your professional developers, SQL developers, data engineers, and everything, it's just Synapse. Well, isn't that the isn't that the same platform that they've been rejecting for years in favor of things like Snowflake and Direct and Databricks, right? So does this change the game somehow in terms of them using it, or them saying, "Oh yeah, now we have Delta, like just like Databricks had 5 years ago, now we're going to adopt Synapse." Does it really change the game? And now I can do this directly. This is the greatest thing. Is it really going to change the game for Synapse? I have my doubts. I have my doubts. Um, so, all right. I think I've unpacked this. I spent enough time staring at this visual to unpack everything that I wanted to talk about. Let's go ahead and let's create one of these things. All right. So again, I've kind of covered the good, right? It's interesting. I've kind of covered some of the bad. It's like, and so let's get to the ugly. All right, so I've got my Power BI workspace, Fabric Schmabric, right? And I created this and I had my Fabric trial activated. And so if this ever, yeah, all right. So I think, oh, where is it? Other? No, it's not a premium. Oh yeah, premium. So when you create this, right, you have to activate this trial so that you have the Fabric stuff, okay? And the UI on this stuff is there's a lot hidden. But so what you have to do is you have this Power BI icon down here. So then nothing like hiding the links or anything. Don't put them in the toolbar or anything. So you have to click this little thing and you have to first thing. And again, this all came out of Formu and all of that. Also in my experience with the Trident public preview. So you go to data engineering, right? And next thing you're going to do is you're going to click on this Lakehouse preview up here. Okay, because we got to create a lake house. That's our first step. And maybe this will work. Hey, I'm just warning you guys. This is a little ugly. All right, so our new lake house. What do we call it? Fabric Direct Lake. And I can't put spaces in this, I don't believe. So it has to be all. I have to do got to be Fabric Direct Lake. And you know what? Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll create it. So I can't put spaces in it. So I'm violating the official Direct Lake trademark or marketing or whatever. Okay, so now I've got my lake house. So I've got tables and it's empty and I got files, right? So the next step in all of this is I need to get data into this lake house. And blah blah blah. Yeah. And so I've got an on-premises data gateway going, and so I'm going to use this new Dataflow Gen 2. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to give it a minute here. Okay, so you don't get a lot of options. I don't know what get for data from other source, but we're not going to click on it at the moment. That's just going to throw me off. We're going to click on this import from SQL Server. Okay, so my on-prem SQL Server is MS hates Greg, right? No surprise there. And we're going to use the AdventureWorks DW 2019. And yes, I already have a connection set up. Otherwise, you would have to set up that connection. But I've gone through this a couple times, folks, and hopefully, and I've run into problems, different problems each time. So we'll see what comes out of this. All right, so we connect to our data source. And again, I don't edit these videos, so you're just gonna have to bear with me staring at an hourglass. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. Let's grab our fact internet sales, right? And we're gonna grab fact sales territory. Let's say what keys do we have here? What keys do we have? Come on. Oh, we got an order. We got product key, customer key, promotion key. Okay, so let's get dim promotion. I'm not gonna do dim currency. Dim date. We got to have that one. Dim customer. We'll do that one. So okay, so dim customer, dim date, dim promotion, dim sales territory, and fact internet sales. That should be good enough. All right, so now we're going to create it. All right. So now this is where it gets a little clunky. We'll see what happens here. So dim customer. So now the thing you got to do with this is you have to just add this data destination. All right, so we're going to pick Lake House because that's what we want. Okay, so now interestingly, when I very first did this, this came up blank, and it was like I had to try like 6 or 7 times before this option really appeared. Don't know what all that was about, but again, it's beta, and this is a little ugly. We're gonna click next. And let's see here. So here's my workspaces. So my workspace is Fabric Schmabric. And we're going to do this Fabric Data Lake as our data lake, right? So we click next. A new table will be created in Fabric Data Lake, Direct Lake. That's great. We don't want to change any of this stuff. That's fine. Save settings. Now we get to do this 4 more times. Yeehaw. Add data destination, Lake House, Lake House. I told you it was a little ugly. Fabric Schmabric, Direct Lake, next. Save settings. Sorry, it's painful, guys. Add data destination, Lake House, next. Then one article is talking about a fluent UI. It's like Fabric Schmabric, Fabric Direct Lake, next. Save settings. 2 more times, just 2 more times, man. That's all we got. All right. Lake House, next. Fabric Schmabric, Direct Lake, next. Keep settings. We're down to the last one. If you notice, it's doing some weird stuff in the background. I don't know if you noticed any of that, but like when I say add this, see it, it's like it's creating some, well, not yet. And so next, when does it create that? Yeah, see, navigation, it's doing some weird stuff. Anyway, Fabric Schmabric, Direct Lake, next. Save settings. Okay, I think we're done. Yeah, that should be it, I believe, if I'm setting everything. And so I can now click on Publish. Okay, so now you see it created a bunch of stuff. So there's my data flow. It called it data flow 1. But it created a bunch of other artifacts in here. So there's a data set, there's a SQL endpoint, there's another data set, a warehouse it created, another data set that was created, SQL endpoint. So I mean, I don't know if you get charged for all this stuff. I guess not, since it's just, in the new licensing bundle, it's just, per hour and all of that sort of thing. I don't know if I'm running on an F2 equivalent or an F64 during the trial. I have no idea. Okay, so this thing's, gotta wait for this thing a little bit. That's the reason I'm so hyper today, man. I've had way too much coffee this morning. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait for this to refresh, and then we're going to have to refresh it again because data flows, for whatever reason, like the first refresh doesn't get the data in. You have to do it again to get the data in. Just the way it works. Yeah, so now one of the things I found interesting about this, since we have some time here, is that I have an Azure Synapse workspace that's loaded up in an actual real Azure Synapse workspace, right? That's not this trial and everything else. And the interesting thing I found was that I can change workspaces in Azure Synapse when I'm in there, but these workspaces don't show up. So I don't know if they're like a Gen 2 Azure Synapse workspace or if it's just these data elements that are within not an Azure, a real Azure Synapse workspace. They're just artifacts that are existing within Power BI. Versus, I guess I kind of had the idea that, again, that it would spin up an Azure Synapse workspace under the hood and create the artifacts there. I don't know if maybe it is doing that, maybe it's not doing that. I don't know. Um, Waiting for the deep dive and all of this in terms of, but it's a little concerning to me, right? Because if I have my Azure Synapse Workspace, if I'm one of the 3 Azure Synapse customers out there today, and then so how do I migrate my stuff to this new thing of Fabric and all of that? So otherwise, it seems to make much more sense to me as far as a migration path and that sort of thing is if I could access these Azure Synapse workspaces, if they do in fact exist, from my Azure Synapse workspaces existing, and I'd be able to do everything that I can do in this, right? I could go into an Azure Synapse workspace and create my lakehouse, create all my stuff, and then connect Power BI to it. I don't know why they would not do that, but maybe that's going to be Gem 1 and they're going to deprecate it and say, nope, we only had 3 years users using it anyway, so you guys can migrate to the new thing. I don't know. I have no idea. I wish this thing would finish. I'm running out of things to talk about. And we're going to have to go and probably do this again to refresh it. So, do, 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 do. This is some of the ugly people. Come on. This did not take this long. I don't remember it taking this long before. Hopefully it's just the first time. It's going through and creating everything. I wonder. Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. I'm not even in Power BI anymore. It changed the icon. I don't know what that was. That didn't look like an X to me. I don't know, but that's interesting. I wonder if I can duplicate this tab. Still spinning, but can I go to my lake house? Here's my lake house. Oh yeah, there's my customer table. So they're actually there. Oh, and they actually have data in them. All right, that's even better. That's maybe why it's taking a little longer. I always thought you had to run that twice, and that was actually in Formu's article too. So maybe they've improved that. Now the other thing that I ran into a couple times when I did this is that it didn't recognize this fact table down here. It actually gave me some big, folder structure, and it was like couldn't recognize this as a table. And if you really keep this, move it to files. And so, but I ran refresh again, and it fixed it. At least the last time that happened. So that was good. Okay, so I got dim date. Has dim date been loaded yet? Yep, it's got data in it. Dim promotion. Yep, that looks good. Dim sales territory. Yep, that looks good. This was probably one that's taken forever does have data in it, so that's good. Should probably let this finish up refreshing though. But it does look like I have data in my table. Again, the last time I did this, which was like last night, I actually had to run that refresh twice to get the data loaded. The first time just created the tables, but no data basically. So improved. Okay, so there we go. It's finished up. In theory, I've got my data. Go ahead and close this. All right, so let's go to our Fabric Direct Lake. Okay, now, if I remember correctly, so it is not allowing me to create a new Power BI dataset. That's new. Well, maybe I need to refresh it again for no reason. Let's try it again. Let's try refreshing it. Again, that should be active. So now we're going to refresh this data set yet again. And we get to wait. Hopefully it's not quite as long. We shall see. How long did that last time take? 1 minute and 48 seconds. Wow, it seemed like it was like 10 minutes. Okay, well, I guess we're going to wait another minute and a half, 2 minutes here. And there's my X. That was nuts. That's so weird. Some of this stuff's just inconsistent. While we're waiting, let's check Formu's article again. Just to make sure I'm not missing a step. Data flow. You can see my tables in. So completed. I then click the refresh now, but now load the data. Yeah, so again, publish. So we published it and waited for publishing the data flow to complete. So that's what we did. And then you had to click refresh to get the data in, right? So that's correct. I can also confirm it's in the right format, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Still waiting. Yep, we got these little, see this little delta, this little triangles? That means it's in delta format. So Parquet delta format in theory. But we still can't get the new Power BI data set. Maybe after refresh is complete. Because I'm pretty sure that's the next step. Another thing note, is there an awesome new feature, app workspace? Yeah. If I had to then open the Formu SQL endpoint, I would see that also opens on the left-hand side. Okay, I now have completed creating a data flow Gen 2, publishing it and loading data into the Lakehouse in the required Parquet format. Now it's going to create a direct lake data set where I'll import the data into Power BI, but rather simply create my data set directly from the tables in the Lakehouse. Be great if we could get to that step. Although what's interesting, it's like there's already a data set. I guess that's for the data flows to use. There's another data set, like data flows staging warehouse. Like, how many data sets do I need exactly? Because there's also a data set that came with the Fabric Direct Lake. I don't know what to do with any of those, but they're there. Why do I click on SQL endpoint? Loading your SQL endpoints. This is going to be C something. Oh yeah, there's my dim customer. So okay, yeah, interesting stuff. All right, gotta find stuff to do while this is going on. How long's this been going? In progress. 12:04:23 is now 12:07. So it's taking its sweet time. Like I said, people, this is the ugly portion. Okay, did it finish? Wait, it finished. Let's go make sure. All right. How is that only 1 minute and 40? Well, my clock must be off from the clock up in the cloud somewhere because my clock is 12:08. If that started at 12:04, then at 12:08, that'd be 4 minutes. Or maybe it's just lying to me. I don't know. That seemed longer than a minute and a half, let me tell you. All right, so click on my lake house. Failed to load the table. Failed to load the table. You know, sorry folks, we're not going to be able to go any further in this, I guess. Because the next step is to actually, unless I missed a step, the next step is to create the new Power BI data set, which it is obviously not letting us do. Yep, new Power BI data set. Okay, let me switch gears. I did do this one. Oh, it magically has appeared. Hooray! I still can't see my table preview data, but this is now active. Oh, I tell you, man, when you do these live demos, it's you never know, man. All right, so we're going to select our tables. Click confirm. This stuff isn't, as Paul Turley said, this stuff is not ready for prime time. It's barely public preview. I love Paul. Okay, so we're getting there. All right, this should look familiar to everybody. Let's collapse this. We'll collapse this. Now, here's something that I find infinitely annoying. All right. So normally when I create a relationship, I take my I take my key from my one side of my table, right? And I ship date, sales territory, and I drag it to my many side. I don't know why, but it like refuses to work. It's like it always does many to one instead of one to many. And if you try to change it, it like yells at you and says it can't be, you can't do that. Like for instance, so it's crazy that one to many. It's like, oh, this is the one side. No, Azure Synapse, it is not. Then I tried to change it to one to many and confirm, and it yells at me. Like, okay, oh, it's not as smart as Power BI Desktop. That is for certain. Do I want to delete the relationship? Yes. So to get it to work, you got to do it the opposite way. You got to go from the many side to the one side. Confirm. So now, now it works. You can't make this stuff up, man. This is gold. This is comedy gold. Promotion key. Promotion key. So promotion key to promotion key. Sure, confirm that. And it magically works. We'll go with the order date key to my date key. This just rubbed me the wrong way, man. It's like just this is just back ass words in terms of how I normally create these relationships. Okay. Dim customer. We got customer key. We got to go find customer key. Customer key. That. Confirm. Oh, God, this is going to be an hour-long video. Okay, so I've got it. Got my data model. So now what I can do is I can click on this new report, right? I can click on new report, and maybe it takes me to a whole new thing that I didn't expect it to do. Okay, so here's my new report. Here's my tables. Okay. I thought I got used to get the option of, there was supposed to be like, if you click new report, it gave you the option to create one from scratch or automatically create one. But I don't, at least it did. I swear to God, it did that last night. It gave you the option of like when you click new report, it gave you options. It's like, oh, do you want to automatically create a report, or do you want to create a report from scratch? Unless again, I missed a step here. So maybe if I go back, how do I go back? No, this is just a Power BI data, so I can't create a report. I don't know. It literally changed from last night. Okay, so in theory, we just do something simple, right? I can do fiscal year, and then I can do factor net sales, and I can do sales amount. Sales amount sounds reasonable. Okay, I don't have currency symbols, but that's fine. It's okay. So now let's try something more stressful, because that is pretty summarized. What if I do rid of this and do date key? Date key. Okay, still very fast, although it is in a table, so Therefore, it is doing the scroll. It only has to load up so many rows or whatever. But you can see I got a total really fast. So that's it, right? So, okay, cool. But so what we really want to know is, how does this really work under the hood, right? So let's save this. We'll name this direct lake. We'll do direct lake report because we got to have the space in there in our Fabric workspace. Okay, so now, right, what I want to do is I want to download this PBX file. Copy of your report and data. Absolutely. All right, so there's my direct lake report. Let's open that up in PBIX and Power BI Desktop. Here we go. Thinking about it? Something went wrong. So I do have the May update. I'm literally on the May update, but this is the funny part to me. So it may not operate in direct link mode. Where's the space, Microsoft? Your official documentation has a space in it, and that does not. Details, people. This analysis service feature is not available in this product. All right. Well, anyway, here you have it. This has been a long video, but there you have it, man. Direct link or direct link. I don't know which one. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you next time.